this is a hard question. And from the start, knowing that this is 14 out of 15 multiple choice questions, we should know that it's going to be hard. And that tells me that D is definitely wrong. There is no way that the answer to the hardest question, or one of the hardest questions, is that the question is impossible. Maybe on an easy question where we could actually prove a choice like a D, that the value cannot be determined, then that might be a valid answer. But on a hard question, this like I don't know answer is never going to be the answer. So you can confidently cross that out. And now, even if you have no idea what to do, you at least have increased your odds of guessing correctly by eliminating this trap kind of answer here. Basically, indeed, they're counting on people being so confused that they just give up. So this is like the I give up answer. There's no way the I give up answer is going to actually be right. They don't want to reward people who give up. So it's not going to be right. Now, there's a couple ways to do it. I will show you the algebra solution at the end, but my guess is that if you're looking at this, you're not aware of the algebra. You see exponents and fractions, you see this weird equation. There's just like so much here that's confusing to you. And so what I would notice from a strategy point of view is that we are not ever being asked to solve for X or Y. These seem to be placeholders that carry through the question. Now, unlike number 13, where we arithmetized, the X's and Y's are not in the choices. But that doesn't matter. If I see that X and Y don't seem to ever be like equal to anything, my instinct is like I could probably make something up for them. And so when you arithmetize here, you've got to be really clever. And this is why, you should practice this strategy on all sorts of questions, even if you think you know how to do it a different way, because the more you get used to it, the more clever you'll be when it really matters. And what I mean by that here is that I want to pick some numbers that are going to make the exponents really easy to work with. And 0 is a really nice exponent, okay? So what I would do is I would pick x equal to 4 and y equal to 0. Because I'm looking at that first equation, and I see that that equation gives me a rule. The combination of x and y has to kind of work out in such a way that it gives me 12. 3 times x minus y is equal to 12. So I picked the simplest thing I could for y, knowing that I'd have to make a slightly harder pick for x, but still knowing that at least one of my variables will be really lazy and convenient. Because when I do that, this annoying exponent thing suddenly becomes a lot simpler. I get 8 to the 4th, which is going to be a real pain without a calculator, but I do get 2 to the 0. And 2 to the 0 is equal to 1. So this whole thing is really just equal to 8 to the 4th. Now, if that were an answer, whoa, that'd be awesome. Unfortunately, it's not. But with some critical thinking, I can get the right answer very quickly. Right? If the correct value is 8 to the 4th, then there's no way that 8 squared is going to give me the same thing, right? 8 squared, I know, is 64. I don't know what 8 to the 4th is, but it's big. And so the exponents are different, even though the bases are the same. So that means that they can't be equal to each other, right? So that gets rid of that choice. On the other side, choice B must be wrong too. Because I don't know what 4 to the 4th is, but 8 to the 4th is certainly bigger. And so again, like, it just doesn't make sense. If they're both being raised to the 4th, then we would expect the base to be the same as well. And it's not. So by logic, A has to be the answer. And I may not know why it's definitely the answer, especially if I was confused about exponents from the start. I might not know enough about exponents to get this. But I know enough about, like, numbers and big numbers. And so without a calculator, I'm able to confidently get this answer because I specifically picked something from the start that makes half the math kind of just go away. And that's how we want to think about arithmetize when it really gets to these kind of hard questions, is like, what's going to make my life easier? Sometimes it fails, but here it worked. Now, the algebra way to do this is to recognize that from the start, we've got a problem with this fraction. Exponent rules are already pretty hard, but they're impossible if we don't have the same base. So the fact that we have an 8 and a 2 is not good. We really need both of those things to be the same number in order for us to do anything with the exponents. Now we have to think though, because we can't just there's no equation here, so we can't multiply or anything like that. We can't change these numbers. They have to stay the same because there's no way to balance out any changes that we would make by doing it to the other side of an equals. There is no equals. So we have to change the way these numbers look without changing their value. And that means not making the 2 bigger so that it's an 8. It means making the 8 smaller so that it looks like a 2. Because 2 to the third is the same as 8, right? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 again is 8. So what I've really got here is not 8 to the x, I have 2 to the third to the x. And now, that's a messy y, I know that when I raise a power to a power, these two things multiply. So that can be simplified to 2 to the 3x over 2 to the y. And when I divide two things that have exponents, and the bases are the same, they're both 2, I subtract the exponents. So that's 2 to the 3x minus y. Well, 3x minus y is pretty familiar. Without even using that equation, suddenly it just appears in my answer, I guess. So if 3x minus y is equal to 12, then I can just make a substitution here and say, okay, 2 to the 12th is what this is equivalent to. And there you go. Now I do have proof that that's my answer. If you're confident with that, then yeah, the algebra way is probably the better solution. However, I will say that knowing how to arithmetize with exponents is really important for some very high level, looking for an 800 kind of scores, because exponents cause lots of problems and you won't always see the kind of convenient thing. And so when we have exponents, a very good number to work with is 0 because it makes the whole thing kind of disappear. 1 is also fine, right? So 1, doesn't make it disappear, but it simplifies it to just that would just be 2 in this case, 2 to the first. So hope you can kind of file that away in your brain because it's unlikely you're going to use that on every single SAT you take. But if it pops up on one of those hard questions, it could just be the difference between that 750 and 780, score. So just know that arithmetizing is really about being lazy, and 0s and 1s are some of the laziest numbers for a reason. They make things easy for us, and especially with exponents, they kind of make things disappear. So that's why we want to use them when we can.